Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Soft Power Project. Today, I want to talk about something that I have been kind of going through and also dealing with is that I'm a people pleaser. It has taken me many, many years to learn how to heal. And this year has been really the first year that I'm seeing a real shift in me. And also, obviously, I'm talking about the reinvention process. And part of what I had to go through as people pleasers, healing ourselves is what a lot of people going to experience as well. And I particularly want to talk about friendship because I think majority of information that we hear is about romantic relationship. But I think as we entering into midlife, making friends is harder, but it's incredibly important. What does it look like in a relationship, like friendship? And funny enough, people pleasers really tend to attract other people pleasers as well. When you have that dynamic in friendship, what does it look like? And finally, what does it look like when you are healing yourself and you're moving away from that tendency? What does your friendship look like? And I'm not going to hold back. I will be completely honest with you about my personal experience, what it looks like in reality when you're going through this reinvention process. So let's dive in. Before we get into the friendship, I just wanted to lay out the foundation of what people pleasing is. And I've done some research, so I'm going to kind of glance over there to look at my notes. So if you're watching this on YouTube, please bear with me. Here we go. Definition of people pleasing. According to Psych Central, it defines people pleasing as a behavior where someone prioritizes other needs to gain approval, avoid conflict, and to feel safe. And I think feeling of safety is really the underlying needs here that all people pleasers trying to strive for. And that's why it's a survival mechanism that we adapt from childhood. We think that love is definitely conditional. We have to work hard. We have to do more in order to gain it. So it is conditional. And that's why it's so hard for us to kind of transition out from this behavior because it's so ingrained in us. And I would also say this, it took me years and probably decades to even admit to myself that I am a people pleaser because it was so ingrained in me and it was like my identity. And growing up, I also went abroad to Canada, to the States to study, when I was about like 15. And so I was constantly looking for ways to fit in, and I would use my people pleasing tendency in order to do that, to fit in, to please, to conform, and to make friends. And so that's part of my identity, and I was even proud of it because I thought I'm pretty good at it. Like, I'm a chameleon. Like I could adopt myself. I can change colors whenever I want. I can even like switch back and forth from this culture to that culture, from one language to another language. But it wasn't until, when I was like 35 that I'm just like done with this because I don't even know what I want or who I am. So it definitely took a long time for me to see the, really the downside of it and how it's impacting my life negatively in order for me to see, okay, this is something I got to change. And yes, I'm a people pleaser. And according to Greater Good Science Center of UC Berkeley, it emphasized that people pleasers seek external validation, mistaking approval for connection. And that's definitely true. And again, we want connection because then we can feel safe. And another thing that people say people pleasers are, and it sounds really harsh, I don't love the phrasing, but it's somewhat true, is that it's a manipulating tactic. It's a form of control, right? We wanted to control other people's emotion and how they perceived us. And funny enough, I'm just like reflecting back today. Before this year, whenever I think of me, I think of how other people look at me. So my perception of myself is always coming from other people. And and I thought to myself, wow, that's really sad because how do I know what other people feel about me? So no wonder I'm constantly chasing for to fix, to do more, to please, because obviously I'm not them, so I don't know how they feel. But I'm trying to control that. I'm trying to control something that's absolutely out of my control. So I think essentially that is why people pleasing would drain us and impact us negatively. So what does people pleasing actually looks like in friendship? We're overextending ourselves to avoid guilt. We are avoiding honesty when it comes to upsetting someone. We don't want conflict, When we feel like conflict is coming, we're trying to find ways to make sure that the peace is there. We're maintaining the peace. And we're saying yes before even checking in with ourselves about our truth. Do we actually want to do it or not? And equating harmony with closeness. That's another big one. And when it comes to like saying yes before checking in with ourselves, I'm going to give you an example. And this happened last year. And that was really the turning point for me. So I was working a job. I was head of marketing. I managed probably 10 people all over Asia. And I worked really hard in that job, and I have to say, I was really proud of what I was done. Like, it was more of a working for a certain Asian brand, and I had to help them to rebrand in order to market the brand in US and Europe. But I hit a point where I felt like I wasn't being appreciated. And of course, that really triggered my people pleasing tendency because I felt like, well, I want to feel appreciated. What can I do? And one day, my boss at the time, he'd ask me to do something. And I'm always very happy when he asked me to do something because I really wanted to please and make sure that, you know, I get really good. That's the external validation that I want. So he asks me to make a reservation for him. And mind you, this happens a lot in a lot of these smaller companies, and I work for a startup. We don't normally have secretary or admins, and he kind of refused to have one. So he has this tendency to ask women around him to do these kind of work. And immediately I say, yes, of course. But in my head, I'm like, well, this is really not my job. And this is really not empowering at all. But I felt like, well, it's easy enough, I guess. I could just call. I make sure I made a few phone calls and I make sure that he got the restaurant that he really wanted to go and make sure all his clients, his name is on the list and everything. But in my mind, like my nervous system, it's just telling me that no, this is wrong. You're head of marketing. You're not his secretary. You don't need to say yes. Like once you say yes, this is a slippery slope. Like he's going to ask again and again. And to be quite honest, that was probably not the first time. He's probably has done that many, many times. So I did it. And he told me immediately, wow, Sherry, thanks. You're a lifesaver. And mind you, that was the only praise, the first praise I've ever gotten from him. And to me, at then and there, I felt like it's like a lightning has struck me, and I could not believe I was getting the praise for being people pleaser and not getting the praise for doing my job properly. And yeah, so again, I said yes before even checking in to see if it's appropriate. But I kept saying yes. And eventually, I'm kind of the default person that he had to go to do the things that I didn't want to do. And that, I think not only worked in friendship, it also worked in a lot of different relationship as well. So from that particular example, as you can hear, and I think this is a lot of the experience that we tend to have, is that our counterpart would be someone that really like that people pleasing tendency of ours, and they would maybe take advantage of that. But what happened when givers also found givers in a relationship? And I have several of that relationship. When you found it, when givers found a giver, oh my goodness, that felt so good and so right. And both just jump into that friendship right away and just so in love with that friendship because finally, I'm not the only person that's responsible for everyone's safety and happiness. Finally, someone remembers my birthday. Finally, someone remembers where I wanted to go to a restaurant with my food preference. And finally, someone cares, right? So, actually, a lot of people pleaser actually attract each other because of that mutual caretaking tendency. But that's the thing. It's a mutual caretaking tendency that we're so attracted to. It's not really the mutual truth. And when life is going great, if it's just party and social event and all that and birthday, I think life is great. But when life gets hard, which life does get hard, I think one side will start to find that there's something wrong in that relationship. And I'll use my personal example as well. So I had this friend and immediately we're so attracted to each other in a way that we both care, we give, we're compassionate, we share the same interests, similar background. So immediately we're just like became like really, really good friends. And to the point I will go to her house, she will come to mine. I felt so good, right? It felt amazing until one day, until life gets a little bit more complicated where, she really wanted to do a certain project. And because as a friend, I'm like, great, I'm happy to help. But that's really when everything went south because initially she wasn't really expressing her needs coming from this project and what she really wanted from the project, what she wanted to get from the project. And I had no idea. I really thought it's just a pure kind of me helping whenever I can situation. So that mutual truth is not there. And unfortunately, after a month or two, things starts to get escalated. When she feels like her needs are not met, and she would get very anxious and trying to really push and ask me a lot of questions. And I would feel like, well, I'm just a friend. I'm helping you. Why are you being pushy? Again, the truth is not met. Like our intention is completely different, but it wasn't laid out because we're both so attractive to that mutual caretaking tendency. So when both sides are kind of avoiding conflict, we're only looking at the peace and looking at these mutual, compassion, that we're avoiding the truth. And we just really want to stay likable. And then we feel like this peace between the friendship is everything. Like I don't want it to ruin that. So it really took me months to really struggle to understand, okay, what do I actually want from this relationship? And it's actually starting to take a toll on me and I don't feel peaceful anymore. And that's really when I had to set boundaries and drift away from that friendship. And it was really, really hard, but because when it first started, it was just absolutely beautiful. And I do think that this is a lot of people's experience as well when it comes to two people pleasers being friends with each other. So let's talk about the shift. And when you are done with this people pleasing tendency, you are on your way to reinvent, to transform yourself, to start over, to really reach for the glow up, to completely rebrand yourself. And you are going to be at this awareness state. Well, I talked about it in the previous episode, talking about this reinvention process. There's always this place where we're just uncomfortable, constantly uncomfortable. Why? Because everything that we do was for peace, right? We wanted to be approved. We wanted to gain the peace. We wanted to gain the connection and closeness. So when we're approved, that means we're good, we're connected, and we're safe. But everything about that particular identity and that dynamic, it's going to get crumbled, and you are going to face a lot of discomfort because disagreement's going to happen, especially when I was, that situation I just told you about with my friend. I actually had to confront her, tell her the uncomfortable truth. And unfortunately, because she couldn't really understand me and her needs were not met, and that's what she wanted, I had to make the decision to completely drift away from her and set a very sharp boundary. That means me risking a friendship and losing a friendship. And that was incredibly uncomfortable because it was so different from what I wanted before. That was different from what safety feels like. So again, a lot of people's nervous system will just panic because all you feel is argument or maybe just people drifting away from you. They don't like you anymore. They don't understand you. But again, this is a place, but it's temporarily, that you may feel like you're betraying yourself, you're betraying your own, your value. But again, it's a process of belonging to who you are and a process to get to your authentic self. And like I said, a lot of the friends are not going to love it, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. In this reinvention process, I talked about the shedding and also the silence state, right? That's the scariest because when nothing's happening, when your old friends are not even around you anymore, that's the scariest because you'd start doubting that if you're doing the right thing, should you maybe gain that peace back or maybe text that person and say you're sorry, even though you're not sorry? And that's the scariest part. And some will grow with you, some may not grow with you. And there's a quote that I really like. You might lose people who love the version of you that never say no, but you'll gain those who love you for who you are and your truth. And this is really the state that you're learning how to have that healthy reciprocity with a friend. It's about shared responsibility and shared truth. And even when it comes to discomfort and argument, have the argument in a healthy and productive way. And freedom to say no without fear, even though you may risk a friendship, but you are staying true to yourself. And respect and honor each other's capacity. Again, I think a lot of friendship, it's really not about closeness at all time. It's about giving each other the space that they need. Sometimes people just need time. You're not talking to someone doesn't mean the friendship is over. It just means that you need a reset. That means that this person needs your time. You need your time as well. And, what's amazing is that when both friends are healing, that's the best part. And I have some experience of that as well. Healing is not linear and then everyone's on a different phase. Maybe your friends are healing, but maybe they're just in a shedding space. There's a lot of fear around that. They're getting defensive because they don't, they're really get rid of a lot of things, but it's a very emotional time. And maybe for you, you're way past that. You're more comfortable with who you are. So you're in a different phase. So that also means that you may not mirror each other's behavior completely or mirroring each other's belief completely. And that's okay. I also have a friend that's going through reinvention. We are on a different phase, but we're going through the same thing. And when I get with her, I listened to her and I shared what she can resonate with. And, I don't tend to bring more to her or dump more things on her. And I think it's about that. Just have a friend. If you have a friend that's going through similar process, still need to give each other the space and grace for everyone to kind of grow on a different pace. We're all different. Our life is different. And just know that right now is a place, even though it's so isolating, you may feel like you're losing a lot of friends, but it's almost like a space where you start to create this space, this empty canvas that allows you to make new connection and to paint and to add more colors and decide what you want the canvas to look like. It's very temporarily, and just have faith. Again, I know having faith is not so easy to do, but what I mean is that you don't need to know what's going to happen, who you're going to meet, when you're going to meet this person, because you don't. And that's the beauty of it. And just do what you do every day. Have a plan, have a goal. Have a small goal that you just get on with your day, baby step, one step at a time. I promise you, after the silence stage, you're going to get through the hope stage and you're going to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And like me, for all the people pleasers, wherever you are, whichever stage you're on right now, I can guarantee you, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. You can shift as well. Right now, I don't have a whole lot of friends, but the friends I have, we're just so supportive of each other. And when I cannot go out to coffee, I say no. They completely understand. And, vice versa, when they say they cannot go to a party or they cannot meet me in a restaurant for dinner because they have other things to do, I don't feel bad at all. I don't feel the resentment. I don't feel like they're abandoning me. I just know that everyone's going through something, and that's okay. And what's funny is that I actually ended up having a lot of friends online all over the world. So friendship doesn't mean you have to be with someone physically. It could mean someone that you chat with occasionally, someone that you can just, you chat with, but you don't need to check in with them every day. But once you pick up a conversation, it's as if you guys haven't stopped talking. That's friendship, and that's authentic. And authentic friendship also means that when you're sick, or you just don't want it to talk, you can be like, hey, I just really need a downtime. Just give me a day or give me 2 days or something. And they can understand. And that's a real friendship, because ultimately you are giving yourself the safety and you are safe, and you don't need anyone's validation at all. All what's matter is you, and people who are going to be there for you, they will support you no matter what. All right. Um, Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.